Hello, this is Dragon Blitz, and this is the current any percent world record for Castlevania Symphony of the Night, as performed by myself. A couple things to note about this run. This was played on an Xbox 360 using the Xbox 360 Live Arcade version of the game. This version of the game has faster load times and less lag overall, and still has access to most of the major glitches that are used in this run in order to complete the game quickly. That's why we use this version over, say, the PlayStation 1 version of the game. Another thing to note is the Xbox 360 version of the game has the ability to mute the in-game music using the Xbox 360 dashboard's media player. So if you play music in the background and then pause the music, it actually mutes the in-game music for Symphony of the Night, and that actually speeds up some of the menus in-game. So over the course of the entire run, it saves about a full second by doing this and disabling the music. I'm going to have some background music playing for this video just to make things a little less awkward. But already at the start of the run, the prologue goes by very, very fast. We use holy water and hydrostorms to defeat Dracula quickly. Pretty standard stuff if you are familiar with Symphony of the Night speedrunning. Our first major form of movement as Alucard is going to be backdash canceling. What you do here is you initiate a backdash and then cancel it by pulling up the shield, and then you do that over and over again to maintain the high speed that you get from the beginning of a backdash. Another thing to note here is that we start with all of our very strong starting equipment, the Alucard gear. We want to keep this gear, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be setting up a glitch known as Death Skip. This specific version of Death Skip is a reverse shift line. It's not super important that you know exactly what that means, but essentially it is a glitch that allows us to skip an entire screen. You can set it up off of level up or a heart refresh, mostly. Anything that pauses the screen. So if you pause the screen at the edge of one of the screen transitions and you do it in the right spot while backdashing, it allows you to skip a full screen length forward. That skips the interaction with Death, and he never takes away our gear. From here, there's not really too much to say about the beginning part of the game itself. The beginning part of the game itself is pretty straightforward. The only thing you can really do to speed up this section is to make sure that you are setting up your inventory for later parts of the run. This part of the run is known as the clock rush. So I've made an entire video explaining exactly how the clock rush works, but in short terms, what happens here is the game itself has an in-game timer, and on even numbered minutes of the in-game timer, there is a statue in the marble gallery that will move either out of your way or it'll move into your way, where you will not be able to pass it and go into Alrox's quarters, which we need to do in order to progress in this run. So essentially the first 8 minutes of the run is going to be kind of fast, going to complete some main objectives. But as long as we make it back to the central clock room in under 8 minutes, we are essentially always going to be on world record pace because there's no way to speed it up. There are some strategies that are theorized to save an entire minute off of that cycle, but as of right now, they're either way too luck dependent or too difficult for humans to perform consistently, so no one's ever been able to achieve a clock cycle faster than 8 minutes. So one of the interesting things about this run is pretty much every single attempt, so long as you make it past Death Skip, has the potential to be a world record run up to the first 8 minutes of the run. The run itself isn't very long either. Past that, the total run length is about 16 minutes, 16 and a half minutes. So about half of the run is dedicated to this clock rush section where you can't really speed up or slow down this section of the run. The main thing I'm looking out for during the clock rush is making sure I have a somewhat decent amount of hearts. Usually heart management isn't something that is too important, but every once in a while, if you accidentally use too many sub-weapons or something like that, you will need to ensure that you have enough hearts for later parts of the run. The other thing that's way more important, however, is inventory management. So there are a couple times we need to open the inventory and use single-use items like library cards or change our equipment around later once we do shop glitch and stuff like that. So if I get any additional item drops from enemies, which is completely random, I want to make sure that I note where it is in my inventory. So that way I know which inputs to press as quickly as possible once I open the inventory to, say, equip a library card or something like that. But until then, there's another important aspect of the clock rush, which is the experience route. So I'm killing most enemies that I see here, specifically because I want to have a certain amount of experience for the rest of the run. If you set up your experience during the clock rush in a specific way, you can minimize the number of level up animations you see outside of the clock rush. And pausing the screen to see the level up animation itself is quite slow. It's the reason why I jumped over that blue Axonite there. We jump over that blue Axonite there because if I did kill that blue Axonite, I would have gotten a level up, but it's actually more efficient to stack multiple level ups at the same time. So here on this boss fight against Doppelganger, I'm going to be defeating Doppelganger and receiving multiple level ups at the same time. This animation here, which is more efficient than having separate level up animations happen one after another. The other reason why we want to skip the blue Axonite is because this game uses a dynamic experience system. So the higher level Alucard is, the less experience you gain overall. So in general, if you level up off of a boss at a lower level, you're going to gain more experience than if you were a higher level fighting that boss in the first place. So one of the ways that we kind of force ourselves to get to a decently high level early is stacking levels on bosses in specific scenarios. It's another reason where a lot of people ask me, like, why do I go out of my way to kill this guy? It actually sets up my experience such to skip a level up animation later and be at a higher level as well. The whole reason we go to this side of the castle, by the way, is to acquire the Soul of Wolf. The Soul of Wolf isn't a super noteworthy part of like a casual playthrough necessarily. A lot of casuals will use it because the wolf's movement is faster than like Alucard's walking speed or whatever. But the wolf movement is about the same speed as Alucard's backdash, funny enough. So backdash canceling and wolf movement is usually about the same except for specific scenarios. We're going to see one of those scenarios coming up here where it's slightly faster to transform into the wolf. The main reason is because the wolf maintains horizontal momentum in the air, where Alucard doesn't have a lot of quick horizontal momentum in the air. He goes back to his normal walking speed when he uses his jumps, or he loses all of his momentum if he falls off of a platform. Whereas the wolf maintains a much faster speed in the air. So transforming into wolf here makes so when you jump up those stairs, you're actually going at a fast speed the whole time, where Alucard would need to slow down, jump, and then land, and then start backdashing again. From here, our experience is set up such that like it doesn't really matter what we end up killing, which enemies we end up killing, and which ones we don't end up killing. That table jump right there where you jump over the table is pretty precise, but it's really nice to get. Lets you go all the way to the end here as the wolf. And as you can see, we have to wait a decent amount of time here before this 8-minute cycle is up. Most runs, I'm usually here 30 seconds before the clock cycle is over. So it's a pretty lenient window to make it here and still be on world record pace. My main thing here is I want to make sure I have at least 40 hearts. That gives me 2 casts of the stopwatch if I need to. Right there, I just time my jump and transform, so that way I can enter this area as soon as possible. The reason why we transform into the wolf is because it gives us access to a dive kick once we untransform. We dive kick off the candle, which gives us extra height to enter Alrox's quarters without the need of using the double jump. In fact, the leap stone, the ability that gives us the double jump, isn't picked up at all in this route at all. It's not necessary. The reason we're going through Alrox's quarters is to get to the Colosseum as quick as we can. And then from here, it's important that we go through the Colosseum because at the end of the Colosseum, after we fight Minotaur and Werewolf, is the Mist Transformation. The Mist Transformation is the only quick way we have access to getting the Bat Transformation. And once we get the Bat Transformation, it just becomes a fast dash to the end of the game. The Bat Transformation is basically all you need in order to beat this game. Funny enough, having Mist is nice too because it allows you to do some interesting movement with Mist and Bat together. This is another example of stacking levels together. I'm making sure that I only see one level up animation by killing both Minotaur and Werewolf on the same exact frame by damaging one, then the other, down to the point where one Soul Seal will kill them both at the same time. It doesn't affect my experience as much as it allows me to skip the level up animation, which saves about a second, I think, as opposed to letting both animations play out. Here we're going to be using some wolf movement, again, abusing the fact that the wolf gets a dive kick after its transformation. Same with Mist, and we dive kick off the book in midair to get a little extra height up here to grab this relic here, which is the fairy card. The fairy card is important because this is going to set up for the shop glitch in just a second here. The way that it works, essentially, is you're not normally supposed to be able to edit your inventory or manage your inventory at all while talking to the shopkeeper. However, if you have the fairy talking to you at the same time as you enter the cutscene with the librarian, it allows you to open your menu when you're not supposed to be able to. So there I go to the sell menu, equip a garnet, and then sell that same garnet. So the garnet was taken away out of my inventory by equipping it, and then I still sold it. So what ends up happening in-game is it takes the value 0 garnets that I have, subtracts 1 from it, and having a negative value of garnets is impossible in this game. So what it does is it actually underflows it to 255 garnets, and then I can sell as many of those garnets as I need to buy all the strong gear that I need. Here I'm doing some fancy wolf movement. This fancy wolf movement leads to a damage boost here. It ends up saving like 3 seconds over the alternate movement option where you just backdash as Alucard. All the strong gear we bought, by the way, we bought mana prisms, which we have infinite usage of because we have our duplicator that we bought, and we also have buffalo stars, which are throwable items that are incredibly strong as well. Some more wolf movement to save a little bit of time. Mist through this mist gate to grab Soul of Bat. From here, things get incredibly glitchy right away. We're going to be doing wing smashes, which is going to be a very fast form of movement, and we're going for a floor clip, which is only possible because of the wolf movement that we have. It's a very precise setup. It requires 3 frame tight inputs. Not exactly frame perfect, but pretty close to frame perfect. I used the map to buffer the first frame that I needed, and then I got the 2-frame window, untransform window. Nonetheless, it's a very precise trick that takes hours and hours and hours of practice just to get a handful of times. But on this run, we got it first try, which saves a whopping like 6 seconds over just using a library card to escape that area in the first place. It doesn't save a ton of time, but when you're going for world record, it's absolutely useful to have that extra time save. And here, you just get to see the bat movement at its like fullest potential. There is more optimized paths you can do by skipping mist bats. That's the most you're able to optimize these routes nowadays, is every time you transform into the mist and then reset your momentum by transforming back into bat, that usually costs you about a full second. So if you're able to skip any mist bats, like right here, I skipped one by just barely squeezing through that corner, that saves about a full second every time you're able to skip one. But that requires very, very precise control of your vertical and horizontal momentum as you're wing smashing with the bat. Another thing to note is every time I'm doing this wing smash input, I have a 63 frame window before I have to do another wing smash input. There we just did Richter skip. Richter skip is can be performed many different ways. This is known as the breakless version of Richter skip. It goes by incredibly fast, but essentially I'm jumping at a very specific speed to skip the trigger in-game where the game realizes that you're supposed to be fighting Richter. Instead, you're essentially tricking the game into entering the area without touching that trigger that I'm supposed to fight Richter, and the default state for that room is Richter being saved, so you enter the room as Richter is being saved by skipping the trigger where you're supposed to fight him. So from here, now that we don't have to worry about anything else, we can just go to the end of the game and fight Dracula. We only have like one more glitch left. Here we're just messing up a little bit of movement there. No big deal. That's like the only big mistake in this entire run, honestly, is that section right there. And it only cost me about a full second because the load times are so fast. If that was on PlayStation, that would have cost multiple seconds because of the additional load times. It's one of the main reasons why playing on Xbox is so preferred. Here, because we don't have double jump or gravity boots, our fastest form of movement is just jumping up these platforms. But now we're just going to be wing smashing back and forth through this area, making sure we avoid getting grabbed by the imps. Here's some wing smash control, controlling your vertical momentum. Because if you have too much vertical momentum, what ends up happening against ceilings specifically in this game is known as a terrain boost. So if you wing smash into a sloped terrain at all, the wing smash will follow that sloped terrain. That could be used to your advantage if you want to use a sloped terrain to help boost you upwards or downwards quickly. But in a lot of scenarios, the sloped terrain is actually better if you avoid it. Like right there, I wing smashed down to avoid a small slope that would have pushed me really far down if I didn't avoid it. Here I'm using the terrain to my advantage by wing smashing with the terrain going upwards. It's one of the main strategies that you want to keep in mind when wing smashing is, do you want to have the terrain boosts help you by following the terrain, or do you want to avoid the terrain altogether? Here we're setting up the final glitch of the run. This is another reverse shift line, similar to how we did death skip and it skipped us a room forward. Instead we're using a heart refresh to set up this reverse shift line to skip us past the save room into the ceiling. From here we wing smash in the ceiling to the other side to the other save room at the very end of the game. This skips requiring all of the different relics that you need to beat the game. So in the second castle, we basically just fought Medusa, and that was it. Normally, you need to fight Medusa, Akmadon, Darkwing Bat, Creature, and Death, and acquire the different remains of Dracula. But here we skipped all of that, allowing us to finish the game incredibly quickly. Here we equip double Buffalo Stars. This just gives us more DPS overall because you're only allowed to throw 3 Buffalo Stars per hand. So equipping 2, so 1 on each hand, allows us to throw 6 at a time before needing to have them despawn and then throw them again. Just basically allowing us to double our damage output. And Shaft goes down incredibly quickly. And we are on the final fight with Dracula. We fly up as the bat, just to start doing damage as soon as Dracula spawns in. Here we just have to avoid his claw attack. It's pretty predictable. He always claws where you are on the side of the screen. So if you're on the left side, he claws with his left hand. On the right side, he claws with his right hand. And we quickly defeat Dracula. And the game is over in 16 minutes and 26 seconds. This is the legendary Matthew 1626 run. The run can technically be beaten, but I don't think I'm going to try and beat this run anytime soon. Like I said, there really was only one mistake in the entire run. My Sum of Best says that I could still save a decent amount of time, but that would require like absolute perfect execution. But I'm very happy with this run overall. Without any major route discoveries or route changes, I don't really think that this category is going to be more optimized than this. The only way I see that happening is going to be with a change to the clock rush, if we're able to save more time in the clock rush so we don't have to wait the 8 minutes. Instead, maybe we can get there in under 7 minutes, something like that. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching this run. This is by far the best speedrun I've ever done in my life. I hope you enjoyed. If you got this far, I would greatly appreciate that if you subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a lot. I do stream all of my speedrunning attempts on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/dragonblitz. I'd really appreciate you following. As well as if you are feeling a little extra generous, I do have a Patreon channel as well, where you could choose to support me there and get some bonus content. But yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Have a good one.